The Battle of Coruscant, a pivotal confrontation in the Clone Wars, was not only a grand spectacle of military strategy and heroism, but also a theater of shadowy maneuvers and hidden agendas that shaped its outcome. The official narratives paint it as a noble Republic defense against separatist aggression. Yet beneath the surface lay dark secrets, betrayals, and morally questionable decisions that highlight the complexities of war. To fully grasp the depth of these concealed truths, one must delve into the intricate interplay of politics, manipulation, and sacrifice that define the struggle over Coruscant. The conflict began with the sudden and audacious assault by General Grievous and his separatist armada, aiming to capture Chancellor Palpatine and deal a crippling blow to the Republic. However, this seemingly straightforward strategy masked ulterior motives on both sides. Palpatine, secretly the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, orchestrated much of the conflict from within, leveraging his abduction as a calculated risk to consolidate power. His manipulation of events ensured that the Republic's response, led by the Jedi Order, played into his long-term plan to dismantle the Jedi and secure his galactic dominion. The Jedi, valiant and dutiful as they were, found themselves pawns in a game far beyond their understanding. While they fought valiantly to repel the Separatists and rescue the Chancellor, their actions unknowingly advanced Sidious's agenda. The presence of key Jedi such as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker in the rescue mission was no coincidence. Sidious aimed to test Skywalker, whom he had been grooming as his future apprentice, by placing him in situations that would push his emotions to the breaking point. Anakin's internal struggles during the battle were not just personal dilemmas but critical components of the Sith Lord's grand design. Haunted by visions of loss and driven by his fierce attachment to those he loved, Anakin's choices on Coruscant revealed cracks in the Jedi philosophy. The Council's insistence on suppressing emotions left Anakin ill-prepared to manage his fears and anger, leaving him increasingly susceptible to Sidious's influence. This emotional turmoil played out starkly in his duel with Count Dooku, where Anakin succumbed to the Chancellor's goading and executed the Sith Lord, an act of revenge and a significant step toward his eventual fall to the dark side. The civilian population of Coruscant bore the brunt of the conflict, enduring destruction and terror on an unimaginable scale. Yet their suffering was largely absent from official accounts, which focused on military triumphs and political machinations. Civilians trapped in the lower levels of the planet-spanning metropolis faced not only the immediate dangers of the battle, but also the negligence of a government more concerned with projecting strength than protecting its people. For many, the Republic's failure to evacuate or adequately shield vulnerable areas highlighted a stark truth. The war was fought not for the common good, but for the agendas of those in power. The Republic military, comprising millions of clone troopers bred and trained for combat, also harbored hidden stories of sacrifice and exploitation. The clones fought with unwavering dedication, but their loyalty was a double-edged sword. Unbeknownst to them, their very existence was part of a Sith plot, with the secret activation of Order 66 embedded in their genetic programming. This programming ensured that the clones would turn on the Jedi when the time came, marking them as both heroes and unwitting instruments of betrayal. During the Battle of Coruscant, the clone forces operated under the illusion of serving a noble cause, never suspecting the sinister hand that controlled their fate. General Grievous, the fearsome leader of the separatist forces, was another figure shrouded in secrecy. A cyborg warrior with a reputation for ruthlessness, Grievous was as much a victim of manipulation as any other player in the war. Rebuilt and programmed to serve the Sith, his hatred for the Jedi was stoked by lies and half-truths. On Coruscant, his tactics were designed not only to inflict maximum damage but also to test the Republic's resolve and further the Sith's goals. His escape from the planet, facilitated by Sidious's machinations, was no mere failure of the Republic, but a deliberate move to prolong the conflict and deepen the galaxy's despair. As the battle raged in the skies above Coruscant, the political underpinnings of the war came into sharper focus. The Galactic Senate, ostensibly the heart of democratic governance, was little more than a theater for Sidious's manipulations. Senators who opposed the growing centralization of power were marginalized or silenced, while those who supported the Chancellor's emergency powers unwittingly paved the way for the rise of the Empire. The battle provided the perfect pretext for further militarization and the erosion of civil liberties, as fear and chaos allowed Palpatine to tighten his grip on power. Even within the Jedi Order, dissent and doubt simmered beneath the surface. Some members of the Council questioned the wisdom of their involvement in the war, recognizing that their role as generals was incompatible with their spiritual mission. Others, like Mace Windu, sought to counteract the Chancellor's growing influence but found themselves constrained by the political realities of the time. The Battle of Coruscant forced the Jedi to confront their waning authority and the moral compromises they had made, though it would ultimately be too late to reverse the damage. The sheer scale of the battle, with its fleets of warships, legions of troops, and iconic duels, often overshadows these darker truths. Yet it is precisely in these hidden layers that the true story of Coruscant resides. It was a conflict shaped not just by tactical decisions and heroic feats, but by a complex web of deceit, ambition, and sacrifice that left lasting scars on the galaxy. The triumphs celebrated in the aftermath were built on a foundation of betrayal and loss, setting the stage for the Republic's transformation into the oppressive empire. The Battle of Coruscant, for all its grandeur and significance, serves as a stark reminder of the costs of war and the ease with which noble ideals can be twisted to serve darker purposes. While the Republic emerged victorious, the true victors were those who thrived in the shadows, exploiting the chaos to further their own ends. The Jedi, the clones, and the citizens of Coruscant were all caught in a web of manipulation, their struggles and sacrifices co-opted by forces far beyond their control. This first phase of the narrative sheds light on the shadowy dimensions of the Battle of Coruscant. Its intricate blend of personal struggles, political intrigue, and galactic-scale deception provides a compelling lens through which to understand the broader themes of the Clone Wars. The aftermath of the Battle of Coruscant revealed the extent of the moral compromises made by all parties involved. As the Republic celebrated what it viewed as a decisive victory, the cracks in its foundation became more evident. For those who were able to look past the grandiose declarations of triumph, the reality was that Coruscant had become a battleground not only for fleets and armies but for the very soul of the Republic itself. Every decision made during the conflict seemed to carry a shadow of ambiguity, revealing truths that would later haunt the galaxy. Palpatine's masterstroke during the battle lay in his ability to engineer both the chaos and the resolution, ensuring his narrative of indispensability as the galaxy's savior. His capture by General Grievous, initially viewed as a significant tactical failure for the Republic, turned into an opportunity for him to further erode trust in the Jedi. Questions arose about why the Jedi had allowed the situation to escalate so far. Rumors, subtly seeded by Sidious's agents, suggested that the Jedi might have orchestrated or even allowed the attack to strengthen their own power. These insinuations began to sow seeds of mistrust among the populace, laying groundwork for the eventual purge of the Order. Anakin Skywalker, still reeling from his victory over Count Dooku, became a lightning rod for conflicting loyalties and expectations. On one hand, he was lauded as the hero who had eliminated the Separatist leader and secured the Republic's victory. On the other, his actions during the battle, most notably his cold execution of Dooku, reflected a moral ambiguity that troubled even those closest to him. The Jedi Council, while acknowledging his skill and bravery, began to sense the growing darkness within him, a shift accelerated by Sidious's careful manipulation. One of the darkest aspects of the battle involved the clones themselves. Their valiant efforts to repel the Separatists were universally praised, but few stopped to consider the cost of their sacrifices. These soldiers, bred for war and stripped of autonomy, had fought not out of genuine allegiance but because of their genetic programming. During the chaos of Coruscant, reports of clones disregarding their own safety to achieve Pyrrhic victories surfaced. These actions, while celebrated as acts of heroism, underscored the clones' tragic lack of agency. For many within the Republic, the clones were viewed as tools rather than individuals, their humanity overshadowed by their utility in the war effort. The role of the civilian population during the battle was another facet deliberately obscured in official accounts. While the elite resided in the secure upper levels of Coruscant, millions in the lower levels faced destruction, displacement, and death. For these citizens, the battle was not a distant clash of fleets, but an immediate and terrifying reality. Stories of entire districts being obliterated during the conflict were suppressed, as the Republic's propaganda machinery worked overtime to present a narrative of unblemished heroism. Yet survivors of these horrors would carry the scars for generations, their suffering a silent testament to the costs of war. General Grievous, meanwhile, emerged from the battle with his own agenda furthered, though unknowingly as a pawn of Sidious. His escape, deemed a failure by the Republic, was in fact part of the Sith Lords designed to maintain the conflict's momentum. Grievous' continued presence ensured that the Separatists remained a credible threat, justifying further military expansions and emergency powers for Palpatine. The cycle of war, perpetuated by both sides' unwillingness or inability to see the larger game, marched on, dragging the galaxy deeper into despair. The Jedi Order's role in the battle also invited scrutiny, both internally and from the broader galaxy. For centuries, the Jedi had been seen as paragons of peace and justice, yet their involvement in the Clone Wars had compromised their standing. As the Order became increasingly militarized, its connection to its spiritual roots weakened. The events at Coruscant highlighted this disconnect, with Jedi Knights like Anakin and Obi-Wan thrust into roles that demanded tactical acumen and ruthlessness over wisdom and compassion. The Order's leaders, recognizing this erosion of their principles, began to question whether they had been manipulated into betraying their own ideals, a realization that came too late to alter their fate. The true horror of the battle, however, lay in its broader implications. Coruscant was not merely a site of strategic importance but a symbol of the Republic's power and ideals. By turning it into a war zone, Sidious achieved what no separatist assault could: the desecration of the Republic's heart. The capital's transformation into a battlefield signaled the Republic's fragility and the growing divide between its ideals and its reality. This psychological blow to the populace was as significant as any military loss, fostering a sense of vulnerability that Palpatine exploited to tighten his grip on power. In the days following the battle, the Republic's propaganda machine worked tirelessly to cement the narrative of a resounding victory. Holo broadcasts celebrated the bravery of the Republic's forces, the leadership of the Jedi, and the resilience of the citizens of Coruscant. Yet beneath the surface, the consequences of the battle continued to fester. Senators who questioned the centralization of power found themselves increasingly marginalized, as the wartime emergency measures granted Palpatine unprecedented authority. The consolidation of power, initially framed as a necessity to ensure the Republic's survival, soon became an irreversible shift toward tyranny. The Battle of Coruscant, therefore, stands as a moment of profound transformation in the history of the galaxy. It was not merely a clash of fleets or a test of military might, but a turning point in the moral and political trajectory of the Republic. The hidden agendas, moral compromises, and untold sacrifices that define the battle reveal the darker truths of a war fought not for justice or freedom, but for control and domination. The secrets of Coruscant, shrouded in propaganda and half-truths, serve as a cautionary tale of how noble causes can be co-opted by those who wield power in the shadows. For the Republic, the battle marked the beginning of the end, as its ideals were steadily eroded by fear, ambition, and betrayal. For the Jedi, it was a harbinger of their impending downfall, as their role in the conflict rendered them vulnerable to manipulation and mistrust. And for the galaxy as a whole, it was a grim reminder that, in the fog of war, truth is often the first casualty.